Crossovers, they suck. Let's make them not suck. As usual, I do have full videos on backwards and forward cross pulls, and I'll link them for you. But what we're going to do is cover a few tips and a few common mistakes which are going to help make them easier. One thing when you're learning crossovers, you'll hear me say constantly is put your arms on the circle. But if you just put your arms on the circle, you feel twisted like this, because my arms are on the circle, but my body isn't facing into the circle. Look at the difference. When I put this shoulder back and twist my hips in, now my body is on the circle. So a really, really nice one to practice for this is a backwards pivot, because it makes you open that hip, just the same as a backwards dip would do. So if I'm going around here, I have to open up here. And when you finish that, you're actually in that very open position, which is exactly the position you need to be in on your circle for forwards and backwards crossovers. Sometimes when you're learning a skill, you can get a bit of a mental block, so it's nice to think of it in a different way. So crossovers, you could just think of as edges. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to skate around the floor, outside edge, outside edge, outside edge. Now when I get to the corner, I'm going to do outside edge, inside edge, outside edge, inside edge. And you're not technically doing crossovers, but you kind of are if you look at my feet. It's outside edge, inside edge, outside edge, inside edge. So when I put my foot down for the inside edge, I'm not bringing it back underneath me. I'm letting it progress slightly, because that is a little bit more like what I would do on a crossover. Here, the foot goes forwards. So when I put my foot down for the inside, it will be a progressive, it will be in front. And that just gets you doing a crossover without an actual cross. But it's a really, really good place to start. Another way to practice crossovers is actually with sticky skating. And this is really good because it helps you find the push that you need. So what I'm going to do is here, and I'm going to swap feet. So now my weight's on my right foot, and I'm going to swap it to my left. Then I can push, weight on my right foot, weight on my left foot, push. So I'm sticky skating crossovers, and my foot's actually crossing. But again, because I'm not lifting that foot, you've got more of an idea in your head where that foot is. So it's not as scary as actually lifting the foot. So again, it's another way to build up to forward crossovers. This works backwards as well, because rather than doing a back pull or a back crossover, you can think of it as a stagger and a bubble, that's not scary, is it? That's much easier. So what I'm going to do is my stagger here, bubble, stagger, bubble, stagger. Now it's all about this right foot, and I'm using that inside edge on that foot, and I'm pulling. So I'm essentially doing the back pull. All I'm not doing is lifting the foot into the middle. But my bubble is still that same action, bubble, stagger, bubble, stagger. And I'm getting faster and faster, just like I would on a back pull. And again, it's a really nice way to practice it to build your confidence. With crossovers, it's important to try and get the steps even. So if you have a count in your head, so what you want is a nice 1, 2, 1, 2, because you've got a nice rhythm. What you don't want to do is a short step and a long step. So you want to try and get a nice rhythm, even if at first it's quite a slow rhythm, so you might count to 4 on each foot. Try and get a nice rhythm. Now this works the same backwards as well, because you don't want to be snapping at that pull like that. You want it to be nice and long, so you've got a nice rhythm. When it comes to backward crossovers, I tend to think of it more as a back pull, because we don't physically cross like you do, lift the foot and cross over like you do forwards. So let me show you what I mean. So you don't lift this foot at the front for crossovers backwards. You do a back pull, you do this, and the cross comes from this foot going behind, which is why you want a nice rhythm, because you want to get the whole of the pull of that foot. So it goes in, and you're pulling on that inside and pushing it away. You don't want to be doing that to get your back crossovers or back pull. There. When you're doing your crossovers, you want to find every little place that you can push. So we're going to use all of your foot. So the last thing to leave the floor is one wheel. So if I'm doing my crossovers in this direction, I'm going to push here, then I'm going to cross over and I'm going to push there. So I'm going to push there with that right inside wheel. I'm going to cross over and then the left inside wheel is the last thing to leave the floor, and it gives you this push, push, push. So when I do my back pulls, I want that back outside wheel to be the last thing to leave the floor here. So again, that's every ounce of my pull there. And it just gives you that amount of push and speed and power. So I have included this little crossover leaning into your circle tip before. This works great. If you use the back arm here, it makes you lean into your circle. But it also works on back pulls as well. So I'm using my back arm of my back pull. So if you use your front arm, you're twisting your body. So it's here. So hopefully you don't think crossovers suck quite as much as you thought they sucked before you watched this video. Now remember, crossovers are very difficult and you can always use a stagger or just your edges around corners until you're more confident. I'm Katie with Skatie and I'll see you next time. Bye!